I'm Tommy Salmons. This is Year Zero. Today, I have a special edition with a friend of mine, Tom Burton, who is a musician and an anarchist. Hey, Tom, what's up?
Hey, brother, how you doing?
I'm doing well, and I am so glad that we finally connected because we've been trying to do this for probably over a month now. So,
Yeah, indeed,
it's-
indeed. Well, trying times, trying times.
yeah, no doubt, no doubt. So you have an EP coming out soon, and I plan on using one of the songs, "Stand in Line," specifically as an intro into the podcast, and
Awesome.
I want to hear about your EP, when we might expect to hear it. I know you've had some issues given the COVID situation, so y'all are still needing to get into studios and get some more music laid down. But
Yeah.
is it coming out? We still planning on seeing it this year?
Oh, certainly. Yeah, certainly. Definitely seeing it this year. It's just a matter of getting everything together because, well, the COVID and everything like that has some people, on edge and not willing to be around other people. I think it's lightening up, but I still don't have a scheduled date for studio time, pretty much because of that.
Right.
But I'm certainly I was hoping for it in March, but then of course, mid-February all this crap hit, and so now I'm hoping for July and August. But the way things are going, it's hard to say what if we're going to have Ninja Turtle frogs from Russia coming over and killing us next. So who knows?
Well, we missed all. I mean, we haven't even talked. We didn't even talk about the whole murder hornet,
Yeah,
situation. I mean, there's so
yeah,
much other stuff to worry about. We don't even get to talk about murder hornets.
yeah. I can't believe that there wasn't a big drive to boycott Mickey's Big Mouth malt liquor. Since they have the big hornet on their cap and stuff. So it's coming. I'm sure it's coming. There's a group somewhere. So
Well, one of the things that I look at, because I also write, and I've been writing for a long time, and uh,
yeah, man.
I love your lyrics and the way that you lay them out. And I think every writer kind of has their own way of putting their thoughts down on paper, and
Right.
and the way I do it, and just to give you an idea, is I think of a phrase, something that really catches my eye. Like
Sure.
one of my songs was it was I am the needle that gives you shame, and that was the first line I thought of. And so I
Nice.
constructed the entire uh, poem and lyrics around that one phrase. So,
Sure. Sure.
what is your concept, the way you come about it? Because your songs, your lyrics are extremely well themed. They're telling a story. It reminds me a lot of the Eddie Vedder style
Right on.
of of lyrics, where you're telling a story
Yeah. Yeah.
with your lyrics. So how do you think of a concept and then construct lyrics around that concept, or do you just kind of let
Well,
it flow?
it's it kind of depends, really. I mean, I have like I say, disposable soldiers.
Mm,
I think I wrote that in 15 minutes.
mm,
I have a buddy of mine who said there's some kind of a old Native American saying or something like that all music has already been written. You just have to reach up and pull one out of the air.
right.
And some of my songs work like that. After the Fall, it's kind of a long song, and that was another maybe half hour, 45 minutes into writing it. Meanwhile, I find that whenever I do sit down to with an intention of a subject matter, it kind of takes away from my ability, really, because it seems like my at least from my own perspective, the songs that I like the most are the ones that just come to me spontaneously, and it's just like boom, boom, boom. I mean, it's like reading Cat in the Hat in a way,
Hmm.
um, but the ones that I have to say work on, and like anytime I have like come up with a cool riff or a cool melody, and I have intentions, oh, this is going to make this song. Oh man, it's fighting tooth and nail to get something that I like to fit into that. So really, it's a kind of a spontaneous kind of a thing. Stand in line. That probably that might have took me, and I did that one day. You know what I mean? Just it just come to me. I had that lick for the little riff of it or whatever for maybe a week. I had kind of had it in my head and was messing around with it. But then whenever I sat down to write it, it just like I say, it just came to me. You know, and there was a an edit or two on rearrangement of some of the lyrics and stuff like that afterwards, and then I put it down and recorded it. Um, but yeah, generally it's a my favorite ones are the ones that just come to me. You know.
Yeah. Okay. So you write a lot like I do because it takes me usually if I'm going to write something, it's going to come quickly or it's not going to come at all. It's just
Right.
the way it is.
Yeah, it
If
just
I
is.
if I sit there and I struggle and I try to force and push
Never
and
happens.
it just isn't right. Now
Hmm.
I've heard some poets in the past talk about how, oh well, I edit every line like 20 times and I just I think that in my opinion, and at least, and maybe this is why I am not a professional poet, and they were, but in my opinion, in the way it works with me, it seems like I overdo it. You know what I'm saying? I'm over
Right. Right.
constructing, and
Right.
then and I just end up totally screwing it up. It'd be like
Yeah.
if you had a painting and just kept adding a little bit of accents here and there.
Exactly.
Eventually, it's not going to look like anything like
Yeah.
what you wanted it to look
Well,
like.
I think what a lot of it, like personally for myself, is I noticed that if I spend too much time giving attention to who's, oh man, I don't want to say that. Somebody might take that the wrong way. That the song turns to shit
Yeah.
because um, everything that I write. I mean, I've been writing since I was 14 or 15.
Hmm.
And anytime I write something, I'm always writing something with the intentions of saying something. I
Hmm.
don't I don't necessarily write anything just to be writing, unless it's like for my mother every year for her birthday and for Mother's Day, I always write her a poem, and that's my present to her. And those are um, I have to make sure that I go over those a few times because I I'm trying to everything's going to be crafted for her enjoyment of it. You know what I
Right.
mean? So
Right.
and my my obvious style of writing and everything is lots of frustration and pent up anger and helplessness. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's
See, my
whenever
mom
you
listens to my podcast, so she's gonna be like, "Where's my fucking poem?"
right right hell yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, I'm held to it every year, and sometimes she asks, "Well, it's Christmas, why didn't you send me a poem for Christmas?" But, well, Mom, I bought you something, because I just didn't have it today. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, and
you know,
do you
good.
do you hit those hard, like really hardcore dry spells where you're just like, it's not that you're like, it's not like writer's block. It's just you're just not feeling it. You're just not feeling
Oh,
anything for a long
certainly,
time.
certainly. I mean, yeah, I'll
Sometimes I'll
go.
go months without writing anything.
Yeah. Oh, indeed. And the thing about it is for me is that again going back to trying to do this structured thing where it's like I want to write about this. Well, then whenever I pick my target, I I get lost. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I can't seem to say it the way I want to, or I can't get it to fit.
Right.
I mean, it just there again. You go back to, well, I got to say it like, well, you should say it like, it's like, nah. You know what? Scratch it. I'm gonna go out and work in the garden. Fuck it. So
Well, that's
uh,
interesting too because, like I said, your songs are such like there's such a story in them, like within within those songs that
thanks, man.
I find it interesting that you still write in a very similar way. It's very spontaneous. So
Oh yeah,
I find that really interesting that the story is able to flow from you the same way that like what I do, which is much more, more symbolic and more kind of like on the edges and
right.
what I've always said is like I write words to invoke emotion
Yeah,
that and emotions tell every person, every individual different stories. And
without a doubt.
so you're going to be getting a different story from my poetry Whereas I think with like the way that you write, like everybody's kind of seeing your vision,
Right,
which I
right.
think
Yeah,
is
well,
really interesting because it's not something I'm really good at.
right. Well, I think it's I mean, like I listen to like, of course, I like Bob Dylan. My favorite songwriter is a guy named Sixto Rodriguez. And I just found out about that dude probably 10 years ago. But other than that, like I like storytellers.
Yeah.
I do. I like the Neil Youngs. I like Guy Clark. There's so many people that are just such great storytellers. Huge Willie Nelson fan. I think it's one thing to write a song and feel good songs. Where I just can't write feel good songs like that. I don't know. Whether I'm just such a pessimist or maybe I just always I don't know. I gravitate towards the bitter side of life, I guess, in a way. But then again, at the end of everything, I try to come full circle for a some kind of a retribution uh, for the story. Hopefully there's a little light at the end of the tunnel, kind of a thing per se.
Yeah.
Not always, but I try to. But then again, sometimes I mean, whenever I write, like I mean, I've probably got 150 songs, but it's the ones that I've recorded, I've probably only recorded probably 20 of them, out of that 150.
Right.
But out of that 150, there might be five feel good songs or something, you know what I mean? And then three-quarters of them are all kind of politically motivated, just to here's the way I see it, you know what I mean? And I like how, you read different writers who are writing from the perspective of the underdog, you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
that's who I prefer to write for, rather, you know what I mean? I guess mainly because I felt like I've always been the underdog, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's some days, man, I can go like I can come home from work. Sometimes I'll pull over on the side of the road if I got something that's like I had this thing. You don't mind if I'm cursing on here, right?
No, cuss as much
Oh,
as you
okay, cool.
want. I'd be
All right,
offended if you
well,
didn't.
I had this, and I haven't done anything with it, but it was in my mind all day, and I was thinking this when I was thinking about, our government and everything like that, and this worthless expenditures and this fuck them, don't feed them, we don't even need them. It was just all
Yeah.
going over in my head. Just fuck them, don't feed them, we don't even need them.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be on hopefully on the EP, and if not, it'll be on the second one. So yeah, we'll see how all that there pans out as well. So
Yeah.
uh,
Now, and you say that talking about having to pull over on the side of the road. I can't tell you how many times like I've been like thinking of something during the day, and then I go to
right,
sleep and I'll wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning and I come running out of the bedroom looking for something to write with.
yeah,
It's,
man,
it's like, and
yeah,
all of a sudden it's all right there in my head, and I'm like, I gotta put
yeah.
it down. I gotta get it down before I forget.
Well,
If I
like
go back to
George
sleep, it'll
Carlin,
never get it back.
right? George Carlin, one of my, I think one of the most brilliant minds of my lifetime, certainly.
Yeah.
He said he always kept a pen and paper by his bed.
Yeah.
Because something could come to him in the middle of the night. You wake up and he's like, "Oh shit, that was brilliant! I got to get this down." You know what I
Right.
mean? So,
Right. Right.
I'm the same way. And luckily, with we have smartphones and all that good stuff. So I'll use my notes. I probably got, man, I couldn't tell you how many poems I have in notes and stuff like that. And a lot of times my songs will be that way, to where I'll have two or three poems that I'm like, man, this is basically the same thing. Okay, so this is going to be verse. This is going to be verse. Here's the chorus. Here's the bridge. Here's the verse. I mean, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
happen like that for me as well sometimes. So
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, just never know. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? But the ones I like the most are the ones that they seem to write themselves. Uh, it just seems like it was already predestined or something like that.
Yeah. Like you said, you just reached out and grabbed it.
Yeah,
You
yeah, yeah. Shoot,
tapping
yeah.
into tapping into something, that and people have always told me, I'm sure you've run into the same thing. I wish I could write like you. And I'm like, yeah, I guess. I mean,
Right.
sometimes it's a fucking curse because
Oh,
I
it
can't
is.
I can't get out of that world, whatever that world is in my head. I can't
Exactly.
leave it. once I get into it,
Exactly.
that's where I'm at. And
Yeah, man.
so like, there's this kind of like a disconnect from reality as well.
Yeah, it's a trap. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And it's that fine line between insanity and genius. You know what I mean? And shit, I teeter totter on both sides. Generally not on the genius side, but um,
Right.
you know.
I,
But yeah, it's odd.
yeah. But all right, well, let's get into the themes here. Let's get into the themes. You were talking about a lot of your themes are um, anti-government or politically motivated, I guess, into a way.
Yeah,
You are. It seems like you're just openly, no holds barred. You want people to understand, like, I'm an anarchist, and you're allowed to be an anarchist too, and that
certainly,
beautiful things can come out of anarchy. That anarchy isn't
without a
all
doubt.
about chaos. That there can
Right.
be some beauty in it, and
Oh,
it
without a
really
doubt.
feels like that's a lot of your message.
Yeah, yeah. Who doesn't love a good storm? You know.
Yeah.
Same thing. The I'm a I am an anarchist. I'm a lot of things. You know what I mean? I'm a little country. I'm a little rock and roll. There's merit that I can find in arguments on from both sides, from all sides.
Hmm.
And I prefer to write things. And I'm not necessarily anti-government. I mean, full to the hill. I mean, I'm anti-bad government. I'm not anti-cop. I'm anti-bad cop. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I don't like perversions of liberty. That's where all my angst and problems come from. Is from this denial of people's right to liberty and freedom. You know.
Right.
So, and that's where I have this jaded perception of authority. But it's like I tell everybody, hey, some people say, hey man, why don't you? I got some buddies that are cops, and my one buddy, he's like, hey, why don't you kind of knock off all this, you're always bashing cops? And I said, oh, here's the problem, man, is if you guys would oust these shitty cops, there wouldn't be any material to share,
Right.
So it isn't my fault. You guys should be sharing this stuff. We shouldn't be sharing it. You guys should be getting
Yeah. It
these
should never
traitors
even
from
get
out your
out to the
ranks.
public. It should never
Yeah,
reach the public.
yeah, yeah. If they want to throw up this blue line shit, then hey, then handle it.
Right.
Don't don't sweep it under the rug and sitting here and you're protecting these damn traitors. You're just as guilty.
Right.
You know. So yeah, it's there's a real double standard, and double standards just really piss me off. So I mean, that's what I write about. It's like disposable soldiers. Everybody loves to say I support the troops and God bless America and kiss the baby and all that shit. Meanwhile, whenever the troops come home, they're automatically deemed somehow nefarious or something like
Yeah.
that by their own government.
Yeah. They're put on
Yeah,
terrorist watch lists, and yeah.
yeah, man. Yeah, what a spit in the face.
Right.
But all a person has to do is look up the bonus army. If you want to see how much that our federal government cares for its soldiers, just Google the bonus army. And the bonus army, that's a term phrase coined by the government to try to shame these people. It wasn't a bonus. The federal government promised these people if they would come back to fight for the war that they'd double their pay. And
Yeah.
then whenever they fought for the war, they came back and they're like, well, we just ain't got it right now. And then they pushed it off for 10 years.
Right.
People come to protest at the Capitol. Hell, they sent them out there and burnt down their little shanty town and everything. Killed several of them.
Yeah.
And
They
they
sent
put
out. I could have the. I remember you and I were talking about this one time on Facebook. They had sent out active military.
yeah, oh
And
yeah,
was it Patton?
MacArthur, Patton
MacArthur.
and
That's who.
MacArthur
Yeah.
both.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And there's a picture of, I want to say it's MacArthur there with his saber out and everything, sitting on his horse. And I think it's a young Patton who is next to him. I believe. I might have that wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's who the characters were. But I mean, they literally denied these people the money that they had promised them, just like any other promises the federal government's made to people, and they reneged on it.
Right.
And basically what they did was a war of attrition, to where they waited these people out until I think it was 1945. They said, all right, hey, listen, all you people who finally joined up for that First American War, World War, we're going to give you your money now. Well, 80% of them were dead.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, I bet you will now, you
Yeah.
know? So that's, ask the Native Americans if you can trust what the government tells you. You know what I mean? It's,
No doubt.
it's the same cabal that runs it now, you know?
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, and you know, the the policies may change to a degree, at least on the domestic level, but the attitudes of the governing class never changes. You
Not at
know.
all. It's still that let them eat cake kind of attitude.
Yeah.
Attitude, you know.
Yep.
Man, you see how that worked out. I believe no matter what, history repeats itself. Whether you believe in David versus Goliath or whatever, or wimp beats bully, that's what happens eventually. You can only be, a thumb pushed on you for so long before you stand up for yourself, you know. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah,
Yeah.
you got to expect it. They expect it. They know what's coming. You know what I mean? It's just a matter of how long can they last.
Right.
There again,
Well.
another a war of attrition.
Well, and I mean, we talked about this prior to recording, but a lot of what we've seen since February, the not necessarily the overreaction by the citizens due to this COVID-19 issue, but the adherence, and I've talked about this before, the adherence to authority,
Better believe
just
it.
the begging authority for the answers.
Yeah,
I had I had released a podcast last year, I guess it was, maybe it was early this year. I don't know. Seems to be standing still half the time
yeah,
anymore.
no doubt,
But
no doubt.
I had entitled it "Greta Thunberg was right." And what I
Right?
was talking about is she's right. The world is sick, but it's not sick in necessarily in the same way that she's trying to preach that it's sick. It's
Sure,
sick
sure.
because we live in a world, and not just the United States, but the entire world thinks that the only answer to every problem is to go to government and go to
Yeah,
authority. The people
yeah,
that only have violence at their disposal,
yeah.
and that's
Largest
their
murder of
only
free
tool.
people. Yeah,
And
but that's it. But that's the conditioning. You know what I mean? It's like the adage of government will break your leg and then give you a crutch and say, hey, see, I helped you. You know, it's the same thing. They create the chaos and
was that Higgs that said that? Was
what's
that
that?
was that Robert Higgs that said that?
Might have been, might have
Yeah.
been.
Then
Um,
then yeah, and that's I think I was listening to I think Dave Smith was talking about this the other day with Pete, and he was like, yeah, the government will break your legs and give you a crutch, and then the conservatives come along and say, hey, you don't need that crutch,
yeah,
and
right, yeah,
everybody gets mad at the conservatives saying, oh, you want grandma to die? Well, no, they're just saying it wrong. they're,
right. Oh
they're
yeah.
saying you should
Oh
have never been given the crutch. You should have never had the crutch.
right.
If the government wouldn't have broke your legs, the crutch wouldn't be necessary.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if all law is based on injury and remedy, where's our remedy?
Right,
Yeah, I mean,
right,
they're great at injury,
right.
but where's the
Well, and
remedy?
I had started, and I never did finish it, man. And I've been working on this piece for months, like little bits at a time here and there. And I was working on this piece talking about uh, mass shootings.
Right,
All right. And I was tying it all back to the Federal Reserve and how
right,
the Federal Reserve created the atmosphere, the environment for the increased inequality. The Federal Reserve is the one that created the conditions of the United States in which we see where there can be perpetual war, and where we have, for the first time in history, a citizenry that is not is considered or expected to be worse off than their parents were for the first time
right.
ever in the history of the country,
Sure,
and
sure,
that has created this nihilistic um, kind of ideal in the minds of young people, and that this
sure.
nihilism and this perpetual war and all
Yeah,
these things, all this violence that the the government advocates in the name of government has has created this mindset within young people that that is the way that they are supposed to address their problems and solve their problems is through
Sure.
this mass violence.
Oh yeah. Well, it's
And
because
so
they,
it's
they
this
perpetuate this hopelessness. You know what I mean? Oh well,
right,
it is the way it is. What
right.
are you gonna do?
And more and more, I don't know, do you read Clive Barker?
Oh, my favorite author.
Oh, mine too.
Books
Okay.
of Blood, man.
Yes, Books of Blood, but he had another anthology and it was called The Inhuman Condition.
Oh, I have not heard that.
Oh, it's such a great uh, anthology. It's got a bunch of great stories in it. But I just love that title, the
Right.
Inhuman Condition, because that's what I feel
Yeah.
like. I look around and I see like these divisions and this just ripping apart at the seams,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
feels like there's no humanity anymore.
Oh, there isn't, man. Yeah. I mean, and like in Stand in Line, hey, humanity is something we're not teaching in school.
Right.
We don't teach that. We have this really sugary coated version of history that certainly isn't anything resembling the actual happenings. Now, I am positive that whenever the first settlers came here, they didn't break out pumpkin pies and have turkeys. You know what I mean? I, I won't celebrate Thanksgiving for that very reason. I mean, you want to talk about a horse shit damn holiday. People say, oh, but it's not about that. We got to give thanks for the things that we're happy about and all this. It's like, no, man, no, 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 no. You put on this facade like we somehow sat down and broke bread, and these people were happy to have us. They weren't happy to have us. They didn't have any choice. There was a more technologically advanced civilization that was coming and taking their stuff. They had no idea of ownership until we came here. And everybody blames, oh, that's exactly right. That's why capitalism is bad. And it's like, that ain't got a goddamn thing to do with capitalism. You know what I mean? That's got to do with more of this cronyism and corporatism shit.
Yeah.
The best example of a free market to this day is the black market. You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
you and I agree on a sale and on a transaction, on a price, on a quantity, and you're happy with it, and I'm happy with it, and we both work out. If not, we don't do the deal.
Well,
And that
I mean
that's a free market.
I mean that's simply like the point of like Mises or Rothbard was they're
Right.
talking about you know you're gaining and I'm gaining. We're both gaining.
Yeah.
I value what you have more than what I have, and you value what I have more than what you have. So we just
Exactly.
exchange. It's a trade.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know.
With nobody else involved. Nobody there to pervert anything or to point out whatever flaws.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, it's just a manipulation. You can't have a free market if there's a third party in there who's going to pick who's the winner and loser. You
Exactly.
know,
Yes.
and that's all the government does. It picks who the winners and losers are.
Right.
Uh,
Right. And that's why I always tell them it doesn't matter. I kind of default on the term capitalism
right.
because at least in the more popular sense of the word, like whenever you think of like Marx and Engels and like their writing, and which is where a lot of people like grasped onto the term capitalism, even though it did
Sure.
exist prior to them, but that was
Right.
kind of like who popularized it.
Right.
So their description of capitalism is exactly what you see today. So I kind of default on it. I'm like, yes,
Right.
this is what they were talking about, right?
Right.
but but at the same time, socialism, communism, all these isms, like
Right.
that's a it's all formed, it's all created due to central planning and a central authority
Oh yeah.
planning. And
Yeah.
so the problem isn't the capitalism, it's not the communism, it's not the socialism,
Sure.
it's the central planning. In
It's the
that
authority.
if left to our own devices, we wouldn't even adhere to one ism or another ism. As
Yeah.
Voltairine de Cleyre wrote, we would be a more of a panarchist society to where
That's right.
everybody would kind of be voluntarily cooperating. Even Kropotkin, if you read his Morality of Anarchism,
Right.
or anarchist morality, I guess is what it's called. He even talks about basically like voluntary exchange, voluntary means to an end,
Sure.
and so the problem is the coercion of the government
Yeah.
involvement in these systems, not the
Exactly.
systems itself, because the systems themselves if they were done mutually and through voluntary, cooperation, there would be no issue with them, right?
Well, I guess the thing with me is what perpetuates all this, and what I think is a perversion of the capitalism is a corporatism.
Right.
If you can say that a corporation is a person and it has these liberties and freedoms of people, but yet it's somehow eternal and it's never held accountable. It doesn't have a soul. So the only way the stockholders are harmed is if the belly it goes belly up, or something hurts the public perception of whatever product or corporation that they invest in.
Well,
But
right, and on top of all that, the idea of a competitive market open up to new competition entering markets is
oh,
completely
it's
shut
ruined.
off. It's
Oh yeah,
non-existent.
yeah. Oh,
So
you ain't kidding. No, it's
so
the
as far
monopoly.
as like whenever you get an industry, let's just you could take like the railroads, and you can look at the history of the railroads, or you can look at you know um, hotels and motels, and this is why Airbnb was demonized for so long. This is why Uber has been demonized for so long by the taxi industry, is because what happened were these industrial, these titans of industry in these particular firms turned to the government to cartelize
Yeah,
this
that's right.
particular industry, and
That's
then to
exactly right.
shut it off from
Yeah.
competition entering the market unless they agree to contractually sign on to the cartel,
Oh
right?
yeah, you got to
And
pay the king, man.
yeah, exactly. And then you get people, that come up with things like Uber, and these taxi services are like, wait, 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 wait. This isn't our cartel. This isn't what we agreed to. We
Right.
agreed
Right.
to this. We didn't agree
Yeah.
to this. You can't have these average ordinary people running
Right.
their own taxi services.
Right.
Like, you can't have
Insanity.
that,
Yeah, that's
you know,
insanity.
because
What
that'll
about what
put
about
us
us?
out of business because they'll kind of
Right.
undercut our prices,
Well, and
you
that's
know?
it. I mean, it totally the whole corporate model of publicly offered corporations to me is just a sham. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's literally a monopoly. If you can be an eternal person or have eternal personhood, um, all you can do is gather more and more power, and
Right.
then all you can do is either through acquisitions and mergers, or just completely shutting down new technologies. You know what I mean? Because you have the government to back you up to say, yeah, you're right. That's not going to help us. That's going to hurt more than it's going to help. Meanwhile, you got like post-war Japan, was it Tonko or something like that? Japanese company made electric car thing. I think it went. It's like 230 kilometers on a charge.
Yeah.
Uh, in 1946, 1945.
Right.
The UAW sued the state of California in 1994, 95, for them trying to release the electric Saturn car. There were several people, Robert Redford and John Travolta, and all these people had all these pre-orders for these cars, and they ended up refunding their money because they were sued by the UAW to stop, because hey, if you put these cars out here, you're going to put workers out of business. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's what it's all based around. Our entire, even the world is based on inefficient products,
Hmm.
inefficient means. I mean, if you're going to lay down a crappy ass blacktop every 3 to 5 years, and you know that there's a better medium to use, but you do it just so that you can keep taxing people and that you can secure these jobs for these people. It's completely it's backward as hell. Why would you do that? If you had a better product that's going to last longer, why would you not promote that? Oh, well, because it's going to cut jobs. Well,
All
what's
right.
the damn purpose of technology in the first place? It's to lighten the burden of labor on man. That's
Right.
what technology is for.
Right.
So how are you going to turn a blind eye to technology? Well, I'll tell you how, because you got money coming at you from Wall Street telling you to, you
Right.
know?
Well,
Uh,
and what people they don't seem to grasp is none of these arguments they make against the advancement or the technological advancements are new. This is the exact
yeah,
same argument that was used against ending slavery. Like,
yeah, man.
like,
Yeah,
wait, wait, wait.
yeah.
What are we going to do with all these slaves now?
Right.
Yeah,
Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to put a clause in that 13th Amendment that says, unless you are a criminal.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Oh well, shit. So you mean you legalized slavery? You didn't end slavery. You
Yeah.
just said, hey,
Well,
if
what
I
you
can
did is
find you guilty,
what they did is they ended private slavery.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can't own slaves as a person anymore, but the government
Right.
owns
Right.
everyone now.
Yep. Or if you're a corporate person, then you can. You know, CCA,
Yeah.
Correction Corporations of America.
Truth.
They got plenty of them.
Right.
You know, and then there again, that just adds to even more because now our prison system's a business. So should we, if it's a business, got to keep them veg full. Well, we need more victimless crime laws.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just it's a snake eating its tail. And until people just shake off this stuff. I mean, you can't expect anything to change until we actually make change, real change. I mean, like I said, these cops, I want to see cops fired. I don't want to see these sacrificial scapegoat lambs. So all the police forces in America, they let off 12 cops, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are you shitting me? There was only 12 bad cops.
Right.
You know what
in
I
the
mean?
entire country.
Yeah.
We've
me a break.
we've had 400 people killed by cops already this year, but there's only 12
Yeah.
of them doing it.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, 3 people a day, average of 25 dogs. Post office workers haven't killed a single dog in their history. Newspaper boys don't kill cops. Cable guys don't kill dogs. Cable guys don't kill dogs. So how come these guys that are supposed to be, I've got this badass training. I'm certified in hand-to-hand combat and all this shit, and then yet, you're shooting a fucking schnauzer. You know what I mean? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Well,
and
there again, qualified
lives.
immunity. Yeah, qualified immunity, man. Shit,
They fear for their
I
lives.
gotta get home. Yep.
I dare you to shoot a police canine
Police
because
dog.
you fear
Yeah.
for your life.
Yeah.
I
You
dare
ain't
you.
kidding.
Let's
Yeah.
see. Let's
It's
see
amazing the extra rights it has. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
For an animal. You're going to put an animal's life above a person's life simply because, again, blue line bullshit politics.
Well, I put my dog's life above the lives of people I don't know all the time.
Oh yeah, sure.
You see what I'm saying? But
yeah.
see, that's not what the point is. It's the double standard. It's the two sets of laws, right?
Exactly, man.
That was never intended. We were all supposed to. That's what all men are created equal. It was supposed to be under the law. We were all equal, viewed equally under the law. But that's not how it works now.
Right. Well, and even whenever that was passed, I mean, what was it? It was 2/3. I mean, if you was anything but white, you was 2/3.
3/5. It was 3/5.
3/5.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. There we go. 3/5. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I watched Legion
beginning.
of Skanks. They like to joke about their 3/5 friends all the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was a stacked deck from the get go.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So there's flaws in everything. You know what I mean? But if I can point out a flaw and I can say, hey, here's the remedy to that, and then we all say, well, how long that's going to take, or that's an uphill battle, or no, man, no, this is the injury and this is the remedy. Who gives a shit about all of this? We do that though. I mean, shit, I got a really big contributor. You know what I mean? CCA. Hey, we got to have criminals. We got to have these ridiculous victimless crime laws. You know what I mean? These drug laws. Not that there's any person or any property that's damaged, but the state is the victim. And that's the problem. The state can't be these victims all the time. You know? And that's what it is. I mean, the state always cries victim.
But that boils down to even prior to the formation of the United States government and the way that these states were set up. And they were set up as corporations, and the CEO of the corporation was assigned the governorship, and the citizens within that state or that corporation were indentured servants that were entitled to work for this corporation for 7 years prior to earning their freedom, and they were just totally abused, right?
Sure. Well, in Pennsylvania, that's what one of the most misused quotes from Ben Franklin. Those who are willing to give up temporary liberties for temporary security deserve neither.
Right.
Well, shit, he was actually talking about helping the Penns out. The people of Pennsylvania's named after. I mean, he wasn't talking about, we got to stand in the streets and stuff like that. But that's how everybody uses that quote, and it's really out of context.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. but at the end of the day, whenever you have this system that is, it's evident. Hey, this is the whole deck is stacked against you. You know what I
Right.
mean? And it's for continuing this, not like it's just like technology. You know what I mean? No, we're all going to burn. Candles made from fucking whale fat. That's just the way it is. That's the way it is. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that seems to be how they carry on with these laws. Like we're not just like the same way they do technology. Nah, that'd hurt us more than it'd help us. You know what I
Well, it
mean?
doesn't
But
matter. It doesn't matter how far or along we are in the history of our nation. We
right,
still have to remember what James Madison said, and we
right.
have to protect the minority of the opulent from the majority. I mean, that's
That's
all
right.
there is to it.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
I always say the smallest of majorities is the individual.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
If I don't, if I as a person can't have my own views and speak one, and some people is like, oh, stop this hate speech. Hey, no, hey, have all the damn hate speech you want, but we're not going to take away the consequences of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I believe in complete free speech. Say whatever the hell you want. You can vilify all the people you want or whatever, but fine. But let them speak.
Hmm.
How else do we know what these people are thinking? You know what I mean? So it doesn't mean you have to subscribe to it. Public money shouldn't go towards it. If you want to talk that silly shit, go ahead. And I'm sure there's going to be a group of silly people that will agree with you. And I mean, if you believe in freedom and everything like that, well then let them believe that. But hey, here's the facts of the matter. You know what I mean? But let's leave an open playing field for all of the facts to be laid out there, because that's the problem. It's that the communication of people isn't used. You know what I mean? It's these talking points, and it's
Hmm.
worse and worse now as we get into Facebook and everything, because everything's a little short jab text and everything. And a lot of things can be misinterpreted. But I don't see how anybody can be against freedom of speech. You know what I mean? How can you say, oh, that point is not valid? Well, let's talk about that point. Let's not hide the point that they're talking about. Let's put everything on the table and talk about why it's misguided, why it's wrong. You know what I mean?
Right.
Stop doing this shit that, hey, Uncle Larry's a pervert molester and shit. Well, hey, don't hide Uncle Larry being a pervert. Oust him on it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Stop hiding this shit, because then all that does is again perpetuate years of that stuff. It
Right.
doesn't do
Right.
anything to help the situation.
No, it just
Um,
allows the culture to root and to ingrain itself.
yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, you would think by now, 2020, we wouldn't have any white supremacist shit, KKKs and all this kind of silly shit. You really wouldn't think that. You know what I mean? But they're just as alive and as well now as they were then. You know what I mean? Maybe they don't have the platform support that they used to.
I don't
But
even know if they have the numbers, but I mean, I do know that there are some organizations. I mean,
oh yeah,
they
yeah,
don't have the power, and that's one thing that Tom Woods had said before in the past. He said, this is 2020. It's not like saying I'm against slavery is not brave. Like you're not breaking
right,
any molds here. You know,
right,
it's
right,
just like
right,
that is not brave to say that anymore. This is
yeah,
not 1840. So
right, right, exactly.
so
Well, and the crazy thing about it is it isn't, but man, in some places it sure is. You
But
know what
you
I
know
mean?
what? And here's the way I look at that. And I'm like you. Like let them say what they want to say. Let them think what they want to think, and let them suffer the consequences. But let them
Yeah,
suffer the market consequences, right? Let's
that's
say a,
right.
let's say a white supremacist opens a diner and he puts up a sign that no blacks allowed. How many
Yeah,
white people would even go there? There'd be
right, exactly. Oh,
very few.
and but there would be few, and you know what? Fine, go ahead. You do that. You know what I mean? But
But
I'm telling you,
but that business
it's
wouldn't last. It wouldn't survive. It
you ain't
certainly
kidding.
wouldn't
How
thrive.
could it? Right. Oh, it certainly wouldn't thrive. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
if the community around there didn't shame and ostracize that, then that would be on that community's shoulders. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, it's the market fixes itself if it is left unhampered. You know what I mean?
And then
Uh,
and then I also look at the idea, and maybe you can kind of like maybe you have a different point of view on this, but I look at the idea that oh well we should you know just uh, beat the hell out of white supremacists, we should, treat them a certain. And I'm like, okay, like if all the white supremacists, let's say they let let's say they discover like that there's no more civil rights laws. Like you can discriminate against who businesses can discriminate all they want, this, that, and the
Right.
other. And all these white supremacists started opening businesses. And you have white supremacists opening businesses in places like Houston and Dallas and this, that, and the other. They would eventually, like you said, be ostracized from those communities, number one.
Certainly.
And so they would all centralize in one area. Now, would it be that bad to let them have their little one little like white little area because where they can all be stupid fucking freaks? As long as they're not
Well,
hurting anybody. As long as
well,
they
I guess
stay,
that's the thing. Yeah, are we
yeah.
talking about freedom or are we not? Hey, if you want to think stupid shit, go ahead and think stupid shit. Matter of fact, have you a town full of people that think stupid shit?
Yeah,
Well, I'll tell you what,
exactly.
there isn't going to be any money from any of the people that are going to go to your stupid ass little
Right.
town.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Well, it will emaciate you. You know what I mean? It's you're not going to be able to stand for long because hopefully, I would like to think of humans wouldn't tolerate it for long, But at the same time, like say, hey, if you guys want to sit over on that side of the river and talk that shit, hey, yeah, go enjoy that. See how long
Yeah.
that lasts. I mean,
Exactly.
that's a three-legged racing horse. You know what I mean? That's just
Yeah.
not going
Exactly.
nowhere, man.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
but yeah, hey, go ahead because hey, oust them. I would like to know the people. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's
Exactly.
the way it is now. It's still hiding under bed sheets. I can't see
Hmm.
their faces. You know what I mean? So hey, let's tell everybody they can take their masks off so we know who to support and who not to support. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah. One of
And
the weird things I ran into a couple of years ago, man, it was so strange. I was in Boulder, Colorado, and
right, great
there
town.
was yeah, no, it's beautiful. I was picking up at the Coors plant actually, and there was a black guy there, and I was wearing a Motorhead T-shirt, right?
Right,
And so I walk up and he goes, "I like your shirt," and I was like, "Oh, cool, yeah, it's one of my favorite bands." And
right.
he goes, "Oh, that's a band," and I was like, "Yeah." He goes,
Uh,
"I thought it was a Nazi T-shirt," and I was like, "What?"
what?
Yeah, I was like, "What?" And he goes,
Motorhead?
"Yeah," and he goes, "Yeah, like Hitler was an awesome guy," and I was kind of looking at him like, "Oh, okay," and like just like
Uh,
sure, dude. Like whatever. I don't know what I don't know what to even say to you right now. And
right. Yeah,
like
yeah,
just put yourself in my shoes. When you walk up to a black guy, that's the last conversation you expect to kick off. You know.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
No
so
doubt about it.
and
No
so
doubt about
I'm
it.
I'm kind of like, all right. And he goes, you know what he did, didn't he? Don't you? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, yeah. He was a bad motherfucker. I was like, all
Ah,
right, dude. Like,
well,
I don't even know where
uh,
to go with this.
yeah. Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, how do you, yeah, where do you go? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's, I can't cheer with you, but it's like, well, shit, everybody's entitled to their opinion,
Yeah,
but,
I mean, if I
not,
had if I had time and I wasn't on a schedule, I might have sat down with him for a couple of hours just to hear his point of view.
yeah, let me hear
Just,
why you
just
think that.
curious, out of
Right.
curiosity, like what,
Oh,
like
yeah.
what are we talking about here? But
Yeah.
at the moment, I was just kind of like, what the fuck, dude? And it's
No
like you said,
kidding.
let them take their masks off so you know who these people are because it's
Yeah.
like maybe you can like sit down and have a conversation and figure out where they're coming from. Maybe
Right.
you can help steer them in a different direction based upon your knowledge versus their ignorance. I don't know,
Right.
but
Right.
at least know who they are.
Yeah. Don't hide them.
Yeah,
Don't hide
because
them. Don't let
that
them hide other places.
that was one of the weirdest interactions I'd ever had in my life. I was just kind of like, this is fucking strange, man.
Yeah. No kidding.
You know?
No kidding. But
So
I mean, hey, it takes all kinds. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And
yeah, man.
at the end of the day, if that guy wants to harbor those kinds of thoughts or feelings, he's more than welcome to. You know what I mean? But there you go. You go across that river over there to that town that likes that shit. See
Right,
how far it gets you. You
right.
know what I mean? So it's all become so man. Everything's just there's so many facets of what's what's all right and what's not all right, and oh, you're gonna hurt their feelings, and oh, you're gonna hurt their feelings. Oh, don't use that pronoun. Don't you know? It's like
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, man! Can't we just be good to each other? And I mean, I think that any religious text ever written is nothing but filler and fluff. Well, there's only one good rule in all of them, and it's the golden rule. You know, do unto others, man. If
Yeah.
everybody lived just as do unto others, it would be a much better place. You know what I mean? Forget all the other
Absolutely.
shit. Just do unto others, man. You know.
Absolutely. But I
The
mean,
argument is, oh well, there's sadists out there though who do crazy shit. Well, that's fine. Well, you know, but that doesn't mean that you have to be a sadist. You know what I mean? Just because, like Ron Paul said, hey, we should legalize all drugs. You know, everybody booed him. You know,
hmm
he was it was 2012. He was in South Carolina, one of the most evangelical states, and he's like, if we could just use the golden rule, and they booed him
yeah.
for suggesting to use the golden rule. And then he goes on to talk about, you know, well, Dr. Paul, I say that you want to legalize all drugs. He said, well, yeah, if they legalize crack tomorrow, how many people here would go become crackheads? You know what I
hmm
mean?
Yeah.
And literally, how many would? Well, all right, not many. Would there be some? Sure, there would. You know what I mean? How many people go out and drink and drive every fucking day? You know what I mean? So you're not, you're, by putting these stupid laws in place and stuff like that, you act like you're preventing something. The only thing you're preventing is the access of knowledge. You know what I mean?
Well,
Because
that's where I
look at
was.
Portugal,
That's where I was going a while ago, though. Whenever I was talking about the creation of the states as corporations, you know, at the
right?
beginning of this whole thing, the reason that you end up with these laws, right, and
Right.
these laws that you know when they prohibited alcohol. You can read Thaddeus Russell's book, Renegade History of the United States, and he talks a lot about the drinking culture of the U.S. prior to prohibition and how they would drink at work and there was nothing their employers could do about it. They would just
Sure.
show up
Sure.
and start drinking, or they would leave halfway through the day on Friday, or
Right.
show up on Saturday totally blitzed or whatever. And
Right.
so you look at that, and so what these laws uh, were like actually functionally were intended for, no matter
Right.
what the propaganda they spew out there about how smoking marijuana will make you a rapist or whatever all that
Right.
reefer
Yeah.
madness bullshit
Yeah.
was.
Turns you into a bat, they say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Holy shit.
So uh, no matter all that, all it was to continue production and to continue to enrich these corporate masters,
Better believe it.
these
Better believe it.
governors. It was
Yep.
just to increase production on the
Yeah.
industrial side. It had nothing. It
Damn
was
right.
to try to keep you from being lazy. They didn't
Oh
want you to be
yeah.
lazy and hedonistic. They wanted
And
you to be serious. This was
and
their
what's
complaints.
crazy?
This was their complaints about black people when they freed the slaves.
Sure. Yep.
They had to assimilate to the white culture, and they had to get
Right.
married and stay with that one woman and go and
Yep.
work 16 hours a day,
Yeah.
take ownership and stock of part of the country, and blah blah blah.
Yep.
And it was like, okay, but maybe that's not what they want to do.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Whatever happened to that whole, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
Yeah. Well,
When were these?
it was the pursuit of their happiness, not your own.
Right. And that's what I was saying. So that's why it's a corporatism.
Mm,
I don't. Hey, if you want to have a private corporation, fine. But guess what? Whenever the investors are dead, the company's dead. You know what I
right.
mean? All that's going to do is spur more innovation. There's competition waiting on the fence for these people to kick over so that their new ideas can be used. There again, it's back to the whole picking winners and losers. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not. It's not everything's about the intentions. Well, we had intentions of this. Was it the road to hell is paved with bricks of good intentions?
Yeah.
It's not. I I don't give a shit about your intentions. Let's talk about the facts. Who's
What's
this
the
helping?
reality of
Who's
the
this harming?
situation?
Right?
Yeah.
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 If people want to show up fucking drunk, show up. I don't give a shit if you show up on whatever. But guess what? I have the right to fire your ass.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't tolerate, like right now, Menards, big lumber store here over on the East Coast, is they require you to wear a mask. I think it's stupid. I think it's dumb as hell. However, it's their business.
Mm-hmm.
I can choose to spend my money there or at Lowe's. Lowe's doesn't make you wear a mask. I don't like that, but at the same time, that's their business.
Right.
If I was running a lumber store and I said, hey, you had to hop on 1 foot all the way through my store and you didn't hop on 1 foot, get the hell out of here.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's my business.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't need a congressman to come in here and tell me, or a councilman or whatever. Oh, these are the protocols you have to put in place for the safety of the people. This is about the safety of people. No, it's not. It's about the control of people. Everything's about control,
Right.
power or control. You know what I mean? So they're not doing anything to help the business. They're not doing anything. We're keeping people safe. We're keeping Americans working and all that. This essential worker shit. How is it that they talk about this living wage and stuff like that, but all these people who are on the poorest side of the scale are somehow now essential. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who's making your pizzas? Who's making your hamburgers and stuff? Well, that's different, but that's a menial job. Anybody can do that. Well, no, you can't, because your ass is sitting at home right now calling up DoorDash, hoping one of them will send it to you. Garbage men. Hey, take your own fucking garbage out. You know what I mean? It's about safety. Take that shit to your own landfill. You know what I mean? No. We got people for that, and they're essential.
Yeah.
And it's contradictory as hell.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? How is it that my job isn't essential? How is it that their job is? You know what I mean?
Well, and who are they to decide? Because your company, you're a contractor working for yourself. Your company is essential to your life and your lifestyle and to you. So what's it any of their damn business if it's essential?
Exactly. Yeah. There again, that's just another catchphrase. You know what I mean?
Right. It's a euphemism.
It's like, yeah, man, the terrorist, and like all this shit now they're talking about Antifa. Antifa is a terrorist organization.
Right.
You can't make an ideology a terrorist organization. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just asinine. You know what
right.
I mean? We're doing these knee-jerk. People are reacting these knee-jerk moments and everything, the responses, and then they're following through with it as though this is the gospel. This is the way forward. This is, it's like, man, this is backwards as hell.
But they figured something out, and I think reading Bernays and all that, they figured out just how fluid language is, and how they can like it's Orwellian, freedom is slavery, and
doublespeak.
Yeah, it's just Orwellian in that nature, and they have figured out that, and this is what I have friends that are fairly quote unquote Antifa adjacent, and I don't have a problem with their support for Antifa, and I try to tell them when it comes up, like, well, they're like, well, it's a tactic, it's not an organization, it's not centralized. I'm like, I understand that, but just as the liberal no longer means freedom. Just as progressive is no longer progressive. Like these things are adopted by other people. They're hijacked, however you want to say it. And you lose control of the language once it hits the mainstream.
Oh, you better believe it.
And you can't stop it.
Unless you're talking about, law, legalese. You know what I mean? It's literally for the purpose of confusion.
Right.
You know what I mean? Whenever I say I understand something, it doesn't mean I comprehend it. It means I stand under whatever charge you levy to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's horseshit. Then they say, well, ignorance of the law is no excuse. Well, hold on. If you're going to use these maxims of law and everything, then what? Like Einstein said, what's the purpose of science if you're not giving understanding? If you're going to use these crazy 12-syllable words to be able to describe something you could say in 2 syllables, what understanding did you achieve? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's complicated so that only certain people are allowed to have this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not an open market. It's like, say again, it's picking the winners and losers.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at the way that the law is written, especially like tax code and stuff like that, it's that it reminds me of back in the Middle Ages, before people could read. Right. And the Bible was special knowledge. Only certain people could have.
Men of the cloth.
And they would give their sermons in Latin just to make sure that you couldn't understand what was being said. And they do the same thing. They've discovered they can do the same thing with the tax code and with law and this, that, and the other. And it's this special thing that only certain people can truly understand, you know?
well,
And they
I
try to
try to,
act like politics. You have to be trained in political science to
yeah,
truly
right,
no, no, no. I can
right.
look at this and tell you what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You know,
It's
and I'm
Common
just a
Core
fucking
math that
truck
they're
driver.
using.
You know?
Right, yeah, exactly. Exactly, man. Well, the whole thing is a sham. Think of it this way. They used to have Latin was taught in all classes.
Yeah,
Latin is the languages of all science, whether it's
right.
political science or whatever.
Hmm.
Everything is rationalized through Latin, but we don't
Right.
teach Latin anymore.
Yeah.
Why is that? Well, because we don't want understanding. You know what I mean? Or ever since that we started, like you can look at, I post it all the time as this 1912 Bullitt County, Kentucky, eighth grade proficiency exam. You had to take this in order to be able to go to the ninth grade. I
Oh,
tell
I've
you
seen
what,
that. Yeah.
yeah, I know some pretty sharp people, and I bet you I couldn't name six people that could pass that fucking test. You know what I mean? I mean, there is, and that was in a very poor county of Podunk, Kentucky. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So whenever you add government, all you add is inefficiency and raise the cost. You don't
Yep.
get better quality, you get watered down quality.
Right.
And that therein lies the problem. So whenever these people are saying we need more government, it's like you're literally saying we need lower standards. We need higher costs. We need less accountability. You know,
Yeah.
you're not helping anybody with more government or more bureaucracies. Any acronyms shit you make, you're not helping anybody. More laws don't make you safer. More laws don't make us free. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you're not protecting anybody. You're not helping anybody. How is it that we can outspend the majority of all first world countries 2.5 times and still rank routinely in 14th and 15th in just about every single academic? You know what I mean? So obviously, throwing money at the problem isn't fixing it. You know what I mean? So you're taking money from the lottery now. Of course, if you're in a medicinal state or a recreational state, well, we got to get some of that money for education. You know what I mean? It's like, how come? Look at the state of our education. It sucks. I mean, I'm a ninth grade dropout, so I can't say anything. I knew the scam was up then. I know people that are people that have their doctorates that are just they're not real fucking bright. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's literally a conditioning. You know what I mean? This is the only hallway you're allowed to walk down. So
Mm. Yeah. And everybody has to walk in the same direction.
yeah, that's right. That's right. Six
And if
feet
you
apart,
veer from the
folks.
path, we will point guns at you and lock you in a cage.
Yeah, or we'll just tax the shit out of you.
Yeah.
You know what I
That
mean?
too.
We'll tax you into poverty.
Hmm.
That's the only thing they can do. You know what I mean? The government doesn't have solutions really. What they have is threats, and
Yeah.
coercion. And the government is no different than what the church was. There again, going back, like say, it was illegal for any common person to read the words of God. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't. You wasn't allowed to. I think it was a Martin Luther and shit. Edict of Worms.
Right.
You
Yeah.
guys saying, guess what? Kiss my ass. Anybody. Well, I don't have to pay the Pope to be able to get into heaven. I don't have
Yep.
to pay the Pope
Well,
to be born.
and Chris Cuomo tried to convince the United States that it was illegal to read the words of Hillary Clinton's emails. So I wonder if there's any
Right.
relation there.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure it's almost like they're hiding something. What's in there? What is in there? That's a good question. Salvation, I'm sure. I'm sure there's salvation in there somewhere. Yeah. Always there's a silver lining of salvation in there.
Uh,
So I
all right,
don't
man. Well, it's been an hour. I'm gonna cut it off here, but
right
it,
on, brother.
it was a lot of fun. You got anything you want to plug?
No, man, hey, just check out my YouTube, man. Tom Burton.
Tom Burton.
After the
All right.
fall.
Keep your eye out for that EP. I'll make sure that we have you back on once that EP drops.
Right on, brother. Hey, I appreciate it, man. You stay safe out there, dude.
All right, bro. We'll talk to you later, man. You have a good one.
Yep, you too, man. Take care.
All right. Well, that was Tom Burton, and I am Tommy Salmons. Late.